blessing upon all who come here in fellowship and service. We are grateful for the simple things like the freedom and ability to gather here in this familiar and loved place and partake in this meal together, all due to the advances in medical science and many frontline workers and medical professionals that make this possible. We ask you to be with those who are experiencing health challenges in our club and outside of our club, both related to the pandemic and unrelated causes. We hope that you will help them if they are hospitalized, in pain, or with marginal opportunities to live a normal life. We mourn with the families in Surfside, Florida, who have lost loved ones due to the building collapse, and those who are trapped by uncertainty and are looking for any small sign of closure so that their mourning can begin. We ask that you be, particularly this week, with Irene Wheelwright and the rest of Roger's family and friends as they celebrate his life and give him his final rest at Arlington Cemetery. We thank you for sharing Roger with us for the time that we had him and his great contributions to our country, our community, and our Rotary Club. We ask that you guard and protect from harm our military, our police, our first responders as they protect us and keep us safe. Finally, be with our divided country as we continue to try to find a path forward together, strengthen our hearts to love and promote equality and diversity as we continue to treasure the history of our unique United States of America and value the peace that so many have fought for so bravely. Amen.
Okay, somebody was in charge of setting the room up. Put the flag up front. And I don't know who that was, but he didn't put it up there. So please join me in the pledge to the flag. It's the best I could do without sprinting down the hall and getting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
We certainly hope so.
Why did I feel like I needed to get my cell phone and turn on my flashlight and start singing God Bless the USA? All right. And now, President-elect Jane Covington is going to stand in for Drew Rogers, who's coming back from the beach, to introduce our guests and visitors.
Thank you, Betsy. Dan Jordan has a guest. Okay.
Son Dave Jordan from Orlando visiting us today.
And then other than that, we have David Carden, who is, I guess, officially still a guest, but is in the pipeline. So he'll be a full-fledged member shortly.
Hello, I am, I guess, in charge of Happy Bucks. I just found this out, so I'm going to head over here.
I'm new, I'm sorry.
Is this the induction for being new, I think?
And $5 today to celebrate the fact that my third grandson was born 2 weeks ago and came home after a tough week in NICU last weekend. So I'm celebrating.
All right, so a happy buck for my 90-year-old mother, who a nephew 3 months ago says, you know, how long she can be around? We ought to all come together. So 50 McFerrin showed up last month in California, and we celebrate 2 days of her life, a living memorial. And if you haven't thought about doing living memorials for people you love, that was a really special thing for us. So I praise the Lord for it.
Amen.
getting my exercise. Keeley Hall. This is money in the basket for Keeley because last Sunday night, Vicki Sanford and I were working the booth at Crockett Park, promoting the inclusive playground. And I want to tell you something. Service above self. He had already put away all his stuff, stayed, helped us pack up, and really went as a new Rotarian. I just saw service above self, and I really wanted to thank this man.
First time I've been back since the birth of my grandson, Robert Easton Ingle, about 2.5 weeks ago. And baby's doing well, mom's doing well, and Papa's doing great. So
Recently finished an audio book called Every Day is a Gift. And I want to say that this day and every day, I'm very happy to be part of Rotary.
Amen. Anyone else? Any more? All right, lots of reasons to be happy. Thank you, Jody. Next time I'll ask you to wear your tennis shoes. So you'll- Okay. Larry Kane has an announcement. I bet you can't guess what it's about, but hey.
Okey doke, this is your weekly golf update. And it's not changed a whole lot since the last time I was up here. So let's go over this pretty quickly to kind of remind everybody why we're doing this. Right now, we're at 68% of our goal, our fundraising goal. That's not bad. We've got 79 days left till our tournament. So you've got 79 days to make one 15-minute phone call or email or a visit or whatever to get a sponsorship of some sort. We have 80 whole sponsors from last year that have not come in. That means all of us. I own a couple of those. Those are owned by us. Those aren't new ones. We're not going out knocking on doors. This is a call or an email to the person you sold to last year. We have 80 of those. That 80 amounts to $28,000. We're $37,000 short of our goal right now. If we don't do a thing except get the whole sponsors we had last year, we're $7,000 short. We're also happen to be $7,000 short of our major goal, major sponsors we had last year. So if we get our major sponsors from last year and we got our whole sponsors from last year, we make our goal this year because we did have a early onset of new sponsors. So we're not asking a whole lot, folks, but remember this. We also have the fabulous 100-day monster sales contest going on. Everyone should have received a flyer on that. There's $300 and $500 out there for you if you bring in new whole sponsors and new sponsors. Just a little cash incentive. I thought maybe that might get somebody's attention. I don't know. It got Keeley Hall's attention. He's the only one that's brought in a new sponsor since then. Keeley Hall, good job. Thank you. So lastly, I'll leave you with this, and you will hear this again because I want to make sure everybody understands. I'm not sure everybody, especially newer members, might not quite understand why we have this golf tournament. Tom Carr, who is the incoming president, and Tom's not here, is he? Incoming president of BRCCF, when he and I met a month or so ago to talk over what he was going to be doing, I said, Tom, I hate to do this, man. I said, I'm leaving you with some pretty heavy obligations out there that start in your year. When you add in the inclusion playground commitment that we made, and you add in our scholarships, which we do every year, Tom's taking over the BRCCF for next year, owing $107,000. So where does that $107,000 come from? The golf tournament, right? It's not coming from the pancake breakfast. Part of it will come from our pockets when we do our little fundraiser in November when Bart takes over and does our fundraiser. We'll get a portion of that there, but that's a very small percentage of what we really need. So this is why I want everybody to remember this. Now, I'm going to say it again before we have the tournament. This is why we have the tournament. It funds the BRCCF. The BRCCF funds the inclusion playground, funds the scholarships to our seniors we do every year, funds the grants that we send to India or anywhere we send our grants to. We did it well over 100, I can't remember, 130,000, I think, or $40,000 last year in total give outs from BRCCA. So that's why it's important. There's 80 whole sponsors out there that you all have, you all, including me, have. Let's get those in as quick as we can, possibly, please, and get some new ones. The more we make, the more. There's a new goal that I saw that the board set, and on those goals for this year is to make the most money in the history of the golf tournament, right?
Absolutely.
I want that to be a goal every year. Okay, thank you.
Larry, can I have my second sheet back? Like he said, if you took a look at the email that I sent out a couple of weeks ago, that it has the goals on it for our club. Also, if you go back and you don't have that email, it's going to be on every Reflections this year. We have like 16 goals, and they are lofty. One of them is to get 4 new members. I may make that 2. But if we can do that, if we can have the most we've ever made for the golf tournament, if we can raise a substantial amount when it comes time for Jane to talk about the Rotary International and the giving for that, we're all capable of that. So the more we do, it's time to get back up again. We've been sitting and thinking and contemplating. Now it's time for doing. So I'm looking forward to this year and all we're getting ready to do. Let's start with the golf tournament. Get that done. All right, Keeley Hall, come on down.
Y'all just thought you were getting rid of me off the microphone. Hey, first of all, who are you? Did you introduce yourself when you called us? What is your name?
It's all about us. It's not about me.
What's your name?
Betsy.
Betsy, what's your title?
Rotary.
Let's hear it for our new president of the Rotary Club of Brentwood, Betsy Crossley. I'm so very excited. Also, what I'm excited about is on August the 8th, we are going to have a team participating in the City of Brentwood History Buff Bowl, I think is what they're calling it. And I would like to once again extend the invitation to club members who are interested in history or good at trivia, Jason, or perhaps they graduated from Rice University, Mr. Heineman, and are smart, all of you. Whoever would like to participate in this History Bowl on August the 8th, we are up against some pretty stiff competition, very little, who have joined some other teams with perhaps employed historians on those teams, for instance. So we would like all the help we can get. If you're interested, August 8th, it's a Sunday afternoon. It'll be at the City Hall. I think it's in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, maybe something like that. If you're interested, come see me and we'll get you on the team. That is all. Goodbye.
And of course, you're welcome to go watch our team win when the day comes. So we will remind you again of that date when it gets closer to time. All right, it's time for our speaker today. But first, a new thing, a Rotary moment. All right. So you know who the original president of Rotary International was. Somebody yell out. Paul Harris, that's correct. And when did Rotary become incorporated? First Rotary meeting? Anybody know? 1905, absolutely, February 23rd, 1905. And there were only 4 people in that first club. So the history is, Sid Smith was one of them, yes. Didn't know you were living in Chicago at that time, but. So do you know why we call Rotary Rotary? That's right. They moved from office to office. They rotated the meeting. And the first club members were Paul Harris. It was his idea. So that's why we call him the father of Rotary. Gustavus Lohr, who had the first meeting at his office. Sylvester Sheely and Hiram Shorey. Sheely and Shorey, that must have been an interesting thing trying to introduce everybody. So Sheely was actually the first president of the first club in Rotary. It wasn't Paul Harris, in case you didn't know. So just some trivia, and for new members, you'll be getting some other things that the club will know, like what does Rotary actually mean? What's our motto? That sort of thing. It really explains some just general Rotary things, but nice primer for you guys because you can answer all the questions if you're an older member. So, all right. So we have our speaker today, renowned, well-known, past president, assistant district governor currently. Steve, you want to come join us and tell us about what's going on in the world of sex trafficking and how Rotary's involved?
It's funny when she says that, it just made me think of anytime we're about, my wife always tells people, and I've finally got her where she understands how to do this. But we're sitting in Cracker Barrel in Smyrna, and she said, my husband's involved in human trafficking. And she does that all the time. And I think I finally got her to the point of learning the word anti. But yeah, she does that all the time. To tell you that story in Cracker Barrel that day, it somewhat changed my life because she brought that up. We were, the lady, the server asked me, well, how do you spot human trafficking? I said, well, it's kind of hard for you maybe because you're not asking for identification. And I was like, they may not have control of their own voice, probably won't look you in the eye. But I said, physically, you may notice a man's name tattooed on their neck. That doesn't mean they're being trafficked, but that might. But then take it a step further, you may see a barcode, like on a loaf of bread, under that name. And that probably is human trafficking, because that means that's trafficker's own personal property. And she just went white as a sheet. And I was like, is there a problem? And she said, yeah, I had one last week. And so as soon as I left there, I'd already been to Cracker Barrel working with them on training since they're a front-facing operation of the interstates. And I said, you may not think you have them in your stores, but I just found out you had one last week in your Smyrna store. So it is out there, and that's one of the part of my presentation is just moving from awareness to action. We've all got to get educated, so we need the population, to at least 20% of the population, to understand what trafficking is and how they spot it. But I know Ben Turner sent me a message yesterday and just asked me, well, hey, what are some of the stats? I was like, Ben, the stats don't even account to anything, because unless we know how many in this room feel like they could spot it if it was going on, most would say probably not. So until we get to that point, our stats are really, we really don't know. And for example, we feel like Polaris has they say there's probably about 1 million girls trafficked in the US a year. Well, the district attorney of Texas went and did a deep dive, and they found 313 minors being trafficked in the state of Texas alone. And so that number's probably not anywhere close. And so anyway, so I also want to tell you before I get started a little bit about In Slavery Tennessee. Y'all probably been hearing a lot about them, and they were awarded $3.5 million. And the governor called Margie Quinn. She's a CEO, former head of trafficking for the TBI. She reached back out to me. Margie and I talk weekly, many times. And she said, hey, the governor's come, needs a budget to find land. I went out and got with a guy, a good friend of mine. We found almost 33 acres on Brick Church Pike, a little north of Nashville. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of property. So it's got a 10,000 square foot house. It's got a 4,000 square foot activity barn, which is heated and cooled. So there's a lot of everything there is set. So we don't have to, we can go ahead and move over there probably in January. That closes, I believe, September 13th. So we got we had to put all these budgets together in a matter of a day or two. We sent it to the governor. We requested 3.4. We got 3.5, but not only do we get 3.5, we should get 3.5 year 2, 3.5 year 3. So it will end up being 10.5 million. And then I don't know if everybody's heard of TASA. I probably mentioned before, but that is the Tennessee Anti-Slavery Alliance. In Slavery, Tennessee is from Middle Tennessee. Then you have Restore Corps over in Memphis, does West Tennessee, and then you have Grow Free up in East Tennessee. We used to have one in Chattanooga. We don't anymore. But at the governor's meeting at the Capitol on the press release, I was down there a few weeks ago. Tim Tebow was also there. He was granted $1.2 million for his foundation. They're going to hopefully, well, not hopefully, they're going to build a safe house in Chattanooga. And the hopefully part is they will become the fourth part of TASA and take on that, because like In Slavery's had to really expand their coverage area because of when you lose someone in Chattanooga. So that's what's going on there. I was on July 22nd of this month, I'll be down at the Capitol, and we're meeting with Department of Labor. I need to stand closer. Okay, so we're going to we'll be at the Capitol, and we're meeting with the Department of Labor. Some CASA agencies will be there for foster care. But we're working on a jobs program, and this is where I hope to tie Rotary back involved. And so if y'all don't know, Shekhar Mehta, who is the RI president, started this year. His theme is around empowering girls. So he's looking for districts and clubs to spend time promoting how we can empower girls. And so one of the biggest problems in trafficking is our foster care system in the United States. That's where most of our girls are coming from. So where, a lot of people ask me, this isn't a big problem. Shouldn't we be going after the opioid crisis or homelessness or a hunger problem? Wherever you see these vulnerabilities, wherever there are vulnerabilities, there is human trafficking. That's what traffickers go for. So foster care kids, the average kid's been in 16 homes times he's 18 or she's 18. So they're extremely vulnerable. And when somebody comes up there and gives them a load of goods, they jump aboard. So we really need to take care of these kids aging out of foster care. So that's one thing this jobs program will be about. It'll also be about girls coming out of Thistle Farms. They've got jobs. They have their own social enterprise there at Thistle Farms, but they're not, they don't have enough jobs for all the girls. So we'll be working with In Slavery, Thistle Farms, and other organizations on filling jobs. We'll be working with corporations. The girls I've seen get placed have done extremely well. These girls have a set of talents that nobody else has. They can survive. They can think on their feet. They don't look at a problem and go, oh my gosh, it's a problem. They look at it as I got to figure it out. So they have been great employees from what I've seen, but the employer or the HR is going to have to realize what these people have been through. And so you've got to be, you don't want to bring them back to the problem that they've had and relive all that. So you don't want that to be well known, but someone there at the corporation needs to know and understand. So we'll get on. So human trafficking, from awareness to action. You'll see my name and member of the AFRJ Freedom Council. AFRJ, we had a girl speak the year I was president named Ashley Chapman. She's CEO of AFRJ. She's a brilliant attorney, civil rights attorney. So AFRJ stands for the Alliance for Freedom, Restoration, and Justice. Altus is a corporation that Ashley and I have started. And so we're in the middle. We didn't know a pandemic was coming while we're trying. So it's a business for good. So right now we're a C corporation. So it's a business for good. And my reason for doing this is because nonprofits and businesses, we don't talk the same language. I don't understand nonprofits, and being a business owner, they don't understand me. So I thought the answer to this, although we need nonprofits, is that we need a business for good that's working on this that can relate to other businesses. Because I think the answer to solving the problem is businesses. And so then I'm also Ragus. So if you don't know, Rotary has action groups. Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. It started in the UK. It's now out of Atlanta. Dave McClary in Atlanta is the chair. I serve on the board and ambassador for Tennessee. I know I hate standing right in front of it. I thought I talked loud enough, but anyway, that's a great organization. It's really building up steam. Rotary's taken a lot of notice to that. We've come back to Rotary, giving them a 5-year business plan of what we want to accomplish. And so I recommend checking Ragus out. And for clubs, it's $1 per member to be a member of Ragus. So that's one thing I've talked to Betsy about. And that's one thing I hope we will join. We feel like if more clubs join, that means more to Rotary International, maybe, than just one individual member. So that's what all that is about. All right, and that's just so AFRJ. That is our nonprofit side. So we have the Freedom Council, which is made up of businesses all over the globe that are working on this cause. And then we have a student council made of high school kids, kind of like our Interact. And these kids are unbelievable because they have no boundaries. They have no limits. The sky's the limit. And it's unbelievable when I get on calls with these kids to see the ideas and just the perseverance they have. It's really kind of neat. So Altus is our for-profit company. Justice U is our, if you go to Learn with Justice U, that is our online educational platform. You can take it from your phone, your laptop, whatever you need to. It is high tech. We try to put this on HealthStream system, the Frisk family, and we're so far ahead of HealthStream right now. They can't even put it on their system. When they grow up, they'd like to have a system as elaborate as ours, but that's a lot because of people, corporations like Deloitte that spent some money with us on that. Engage Together is another product that will reside under, right now it's under the AFRJ, but it will reside under Altus. And you think of it, Engage Together is where we come into cities and states and we look at the lay of the land and we find out who's doing what. And just because you say you're doing it, are you really doing it? And so we kind of certify people. And I kind of think of Engage Together as your Google for trafficking. So if you ever have questions about who's doing what across the world, it's probably on Engage Together. We have one person that's all they're doing is putting that information out there. So it is a great resource. Just for this club, when I was president, we had, I think, 4 different talks. So most of y'all are somewhat educated, but human trafficking is the sale of men, women, and children for labor, sexual exploitation, and organs. So that's more done in China, but in the military, they are selling organs, and that's big business. Here's our stats, and here's what I'm talking about. There are 40 million. There are more slaves in the world today than ever before in our world's history. Well, that's wrong. That does not account for the United States, doesn't count for 110 million bonded servants in India. It doesn't count for Venezuela, Uruguay, Paraguay, South America, Brazil, Peru, a bunch of different places. So that's just, that 40 million is just part of the numbers. But guess how many people we rescued last year? And you got 55,000. You go, wow, that's a lot of number. But not when you got that many people enslaved. We only rescued, that's like it's not even a 1/10 of 1%. So we've got a lot of work to do. In 2018, the traffickers profited more than the top 5 companies out there. So it's a $150 billion industry. So that's why they're doing it. It's all about money. Like I said, I've already talked about that. We thought there's 300,000, but we said in Texas, there's 313,000 alone. So that number's probably more like 1 million girls being trafficked, and that's minors in the United States. And I will say in the United States, like I said, foster care is the #1 place they're coming out of in the United States. So there's 25 types. I'm not going to go into all this, but if you can look up there and see the different types of places where it's happening. Some are pretty logical to you. But it is just, it's all about supply and demand. So right now our laws are more focused on the traffickers. We need to be a lot stricter on the demand side, which is the buyers. It's a slap on the wrist for the most part. A lot of even though we have really strong laws, a lot of our legislatures and judges have not been trained well enough to know how to prosecute some of these places. So they're getting off pretty easy. But I will say Tennessee for the last 3 years is the #1 state in the country for our laws. So it's held that for quite a while now. So myths and conceptions, where only urban cities are developing countries, truth, it's happening, and it's been reported in every county in the state of Tennessee. So foreign nationals and young girls who, truth, it's anyone, but most of it is young girls, and they're getting younger. Average age of a girl, 13, much younger than that now. Just the younger, of course, are more vulnerable, and it just makes more sense. Abductions and chains is kind of what we think, how, but no, it's an invisible change, and that's where the force, fraud, and coercion comes from. So you're holding someone not really captured, but you've taken their passport, you've taken their identification, but a lot of times it's invisible change. And you think a lot of times, why don't they just leave? Well, sometimes these traffickers, they are good to the people they're trafficking sometimes. And so you build what they call a trauma bond. And so you save this girl and you rescue her, and then you can't believe it, she breaks out of jail and goes back to him. Well, that's just what she knows. And there's a trauma bond because, like I said, sometimes they're good to them. I mean, they've learned to depend on them. The little food they may get, clothing, it's coming from them. So that trauma bond is hard to break. Here's some of the vulnerabilities, but I think the main one that I concentrate on is the children and youth in foster care. And that's where, I don't know if y'all saw in the Tennessee about a month ago, our foster care in the state didn't get a good glowing review. It was pretty horrendous. So we've got a lot of work to do, and hopefully our meetings, the governor is definitely on top of this. And so we're working hard to take care of that with our government. But these are just some of the venues. Traffickers exploit vulnerabilities through force, fraud, and coercion. So under the age of 18, you do not have to prove that for it to be trafficking. It's all automatically trafficking. If the victim is over the age of 18, if you can prove force, fraud, or coercion, then it's human trafficking. It's not prostitution. Even if they're 40 years old and you can prove force, fraud, and coercion, then it's human trafficking and not prostitution. So what are the signs? No control of movement, can't speak voluntarily, no control of their own finances, labor trafficking, and even sex trafficking, working with little or no pay, no personal identification. They'll act fearful and anxious, and you're liable to show signs of abuse. One of the greatest places to see these girls is being seen at hospitals, emergency rooms, a girl's life being trafficked is about 7 years. After that, she's probably dead. But during those 7 years, 60% of them will see an emergency room on average 16 to 18 times before it is identified as human trafficking. Now, I'm not knocking our healthcare in any way. Those girls are coming in opioid addicted, drug addicted, a lot of things. They're just, and they may diagnose that drug addiction, but they're missing we've got to train them where they know to ask a couple more questions to find out, are they being trafficked as well? So that, I mean, everything, all of that is intertwined. So just more signs. Some won't know because when you say traffic, meaning going from state to state, then you can be in your neighborhood and be trafficked, but some are, and a lot of them won't know because they're through the night. They don't have a clue where they are. They don't know what state, what city they're in. You just got to ask questions. And I had a guy that wanted to speak here, and his nonprofit's called Just Ask, and that's what happened. That they found a girl, and it's like, why didn't you say something? Because she'd already been rescued, but she never said anything. She just said, well, nobody asked. And so we've got to, we can't leave it up to them. We've got to ask some questions. And so impact of COVID-19. It has made a drastic, harmful response to trafficking. It has definitely got worse. Why? Do you have more? A lot of people lost jobs, so you've lost housing. So more vulnerabilities have been created. And like I said, where there's vulnerabilities, you're going to find trafficking. So all of those compound the vulnerabilities. And so COVID-19 has, in the state of Tennessee, our numbers have not gone up, although they have. The reporting has not gone up. So the reporting has actually decreased during COVID, but we're well aware that there's been a magnitude of increase of people. It just hasn't been reported. So I always give people, Tennessee does have a human trafficking hotline, but if you're traveling and you're out of state, that's doesn't do you a ton of good. So everybody, if you keep that in your phone or text 233-733, if you see something, if you're wrong, so what? You know, if you see something that doesn't look right, just, you know, when I get on an airplane, I'll walk up and down the aisles once or twice during a trip. And when I walk through the airport, I'll look around. So we've got to get to that point where we're looking around. When I'm in a restaurant, I look around. I mean, they're in front of us all the time, and we're not seeing it because we're not looking. And so we've got to get to where, and I hate to think about that I'm looking for something bad. I mean, I like to think my glass is half full, not half empty, but we've got to be aware of our surroundings and protecting these vulnerable populations. So who you are and what you do matter. Everyone is needed. So this is what I call the sphere of influence and what I feel like you have to do to get rid of human trafficking. And this is our first impulse. We think it's all about awareness, intervention, aftercare, and that kind of the pendulum of care. We take care of that and we're good. But what's needed, we've got to address awareness at the same time we address demand and the vulnerabilities. So if what you like is to address homelessness because you are addressing human trafficking. So I'm good. You know, address vulnerabilities. And so you've got to know where you live. I don't think we have a huge problem with trafficking. We may in Brentwood, we may have buyers in Brentwood. That would probably be where we're going to fall short. But I don't know that we're going to have to. I mean, I live in West Haven, and to be quite honest, I've got a person in West Haven that got called. And he was an NBA basketball player. And he lives in my neighborhood. And I don't like it. But these are all, I think Rotary can do a lot when it comes to awareness. And of course, we can address the demand. The area I think that I want to see, oh, my bad. The area I want to see Rotary is in this restoration, not aftercare, reintegration. We're business leaders, and that's what Rotary is known for. Why don't you give me a lapel mic? But so reintegration is where I think Rotary can help. And reintegration is the jobs program. So once we can't send them through restoration and healing of what they need, but when they leave, their recidivism is so great that they're going to go back if they don't have a fair wage paying job. So that's an area for a lot of vulnerabilities. I know Bill Lee has always been with men's prison ministry, Men of Valor. And so we've kind of taken Men of Valor's what they're doing and kind of modeling instead of trying to recreate the wheel again. We're trying to work with them on how we can reintegrate these girls coming out of foster care and girls coming out of restoration from trafficking back into the workforce. So I think that's a big area that Rotary can be in. But everyone is needed from churches to businesses, which is to nonprofits, to government. There's a lot of laws that still need to be created. So these are the areas I really see identification. So healthcare is probably the number one place for us to identify girls being trafficked. Travel is probably one of the, and then anything open to the public, restaurants, nail salons. I mean, they're taking these girls to get their nails done and their hair's done, hair's done. Yeah, I was talking about myself. It's a great opportunity, and I think education's a big source. Yes. Well, I don't know. But they're not all trained. Ashley just trained, was about 6 months ago, we trained in Wyoming to the police force in Laramie, Wyoming. And they said, we don't have trafficking. They said, I think we've seen 1 or 2 cases. And after an hour of training, they were just, is this a case? Is this, I mean, we had like 20 or 30 cases that were ongoing right now that was human trafficking. They weren't aware. So it's like our police are not even aware of this. And so there's a lot of education and training. And that's when we created Altus and Justice U, because we can go out to the masses and train. We've got a healthcare series, 5 courses, gives 5 continuing ed credits to the healthcare provider. And I'll get to that. I kind of stepped out of turn there. Effective strategy to end human trafficking. You must address the vulnerabilities in your area, in your local community. And so I feel like everybody's uniquely positioned to make a difference. All of us have, we have different jobs and different things that we can do, but all of us are uniquely positioned. So things you can do, you can enhance your existing efforts. You can come alongside others. You don't have to start a nonprofit. Please don't. We got enough. I love nonprofits. They do great work, but just the answer isn't always start another nonprofit. You know, come along and let's try to collaborate. That's a word that nonprofits have not been real good at because they're worried about keeping their doors open. But we've got to learn to collaborate and share our stories and share our resources with one another if we're going to accomplish this, and then fill a gap. And so that's one good thing about Engage Together. When, like I said, when we come into cities, we look at where you have too much duplication, where are the gaps? Is the gap in aftercare? Is it in finding jobs? Where is it? Where are the gaps and where do you have too much duplication? And then we try to tell government entities, here, don't put more money in this. You're wasting your money. Now you know where you can best, because if you want to stop this problem, you got to close this gap. And now you know where to put your money. So that's what we're trying to do with a lot of the government. But I've always thought I wanted to be in politics, and I'm totally out of it now. The bureaucracy just about, it's quite interesting. I would love to have everybody, so this is my Justice U. So there's a human trafficking awareness course. It's 1 hour. I mean, you can take it longer if you want to really go off on tangents and really do research. It's free. But I wish everybody would take that course just on awareness. And it is free. The other two are great courses. The strategy to end human trafficking, I think these cost $20 or $25 total for all three. The first one's free. But the second one's really great. The third one is, all right, so I'm on board. Now I'm going to write a business plan for my community of how we're going to stop this. And so you're really writing a business plan in that third one. It's still very educational, but it's taking you from awareness to action is what it's done. And so you can, if you see my social media, you can post the digital badges on your social media. You pass all three, then you get a digital certification showing that you passed all of those. And you can post that on all your social media. This is our 5 courses for healthcare. There is the government, yeah. The second one, probably about an hour and a half to 2. Oh, just go to Learn with Justice U. Yeah, it's at the bottom. Yeah, right here. Learn with Justice U. Yeah. Just Learn with Justice U. And so our healthcare is great. I've done a couple of these courses. I'm not in healthcare, but this healthcare has to earn continuing ed credits every year. So this earns them 5 continuing educational credits as well. So there is, the government has a course. And so that's kind of covered in our first class. But this is 5 more courses that is absolutely unbelievable. I was trying to have Dr. Jordan come down. She's from Atlanta. She's the most expert on human trafficking in the healthcare setting. But Dr. Greenbaum has been with her many times, and she's a staff physician at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And as soon as we get complete funding, she'll be coming on our company office and working directly for us. So can't wait to have her. Anthem, the healthcare giant, they're the one that sponsored our healthcare series. So they actually paid for the creation of that series for us. So Anthem's been nothing but they're going to buy 55,000 licenses. That's how many doctors and nurses they have from us to eventually, over a few years, train all their doctors and nurses on spotting human trafficking in the healthcare setting. Like I said, Engage Together has all your toolkits, online libraries. Like I said, it's your Google. It has communication and blogs, a lot of expert support, but it's at Engage Together. If you go to Learn with Justice U, all those places, you'll be able to jump back and forth to different locations, so you can get there. And those are just some additional resources. I'm going to move on. So any other questions or anything that I can help with? Oh, sure. Yeah.
So you said that Tennessee has really good laws.
It's
Better than other states.
Yeah. Well, only about it's either 18 or 21 states. If you're 12, in a lot of states, well, over half, if you're 12 years old and you're caught, it's prostitution. For a 12-year, for a 9-year-old, it's prostitution. I mean, it's not even, they don't, their laws are not new. No, Tennessee has been #1 for the last 3 years. As far, no. It's been people like Margie Quinn, the TBI. They've in Slavery, Tennessee, Derry Smith, who spoke here, she's the founder of In Slavery, Tennessee. They've all dealt with the government for a while, and we kind of lead the nation in that, but we still got a lot of room to go.
As a courtesy to our Zoom attendees, if you'd use the microphone to ask your question, that would be great.
All right. So,
Yeah, over the
Oh,
last couple months, I saw a lot of media coverage about FBI crackdowns on some of the circles. I think the last one was in Ohio. Is that a more focus on it by the FBI or just more media coverage?
it's probably just media coverage. We just had one in Tennessee a couple weeks ago, but you've got the TBI, and they have a human trafficking task force. For the entire state, we have 4 people. So if they go do a sting in Smyrna, Tennessee, well, that leaves the other counties with no one. So yeah, we've got to train our police force. Brentwood and Franklin has been trained extremely well. So our police forces, I had nothing to do with that at all. They know what they're talking about, and they understand what it is. So yeah, we're in a good spot here as far as that. Anybody else? Sana.
Steve, I have a nephew who recently traveled from South Texas to Nashville on an airplane. And he told me when he got here, he said, I think I saw a trafficking operation going on at the airport. I said, well, what made you think that? He said, well, it was a guy with several young women, Hispanic women, and none of the Hispanic women had cell phones. He said, that was the one thing that I noticed, because everybody my age has a cell phone.
Yeah.
And they're looking at it all the time. But he said, these girls, none of them seem to have a cell phone. Is that another sign that we can
Sure.
look
Well,
for?
when they don't have any identification or cell phone, they're not going to have a cell phone. Yeah. So that's why I say when I'm on a plane, I don't want anybody to get in a place where they're not safe. But on a plane, if you notice something, just let a flight attendant know it, and then you're done, because they're not going to do anything on that plane. They'll wait and they'll stop them when they get off the plane. They'll detain them for a second. If there's nothing, they'll go on. No harm, no foul. So it doesn't take that much. But if you see, it could be grandfather with his granddaughter. But if it looks kind of funny, hey, I'd rather somebody check than not check. So.
The series of online classes that were, or courses that were specifically
Yeah.
for healthcare employees,
Mhm.
is there anything similar available or in development for bankers?
No, not yet. What we're finishing right now is one for foster care. And so it's called Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children, CSEC. And that series, the federal government is mandated that all 50 states train all their teachers, bus drivers, healthcare workers, everybody on that. And so which just came out, and I didn't even have it up there, it covers 95% of the mandate. And so that's a great opportunity for us. So it's 3 courses on commercial sexual exploitation of children. So that's good. And we hope to have over 1,000 courses when we're said and done, because we'll look at all vulnerabilities. We'll do a business for good. But right now we're about to start one for lawyers. So for prosecution.
The obvious is that I was in a meeting where someone stated it for me, and it rattled me. And the question he asked was, how many in this room have a daughter? And then he said, the trafficking and all the stuff that leads to trafficking, starting with whatever I choose, or you choose to look at on your phone. She's somebody's daughter.
Right.
And that's the issue of prevention. So as I sit here, sat in one of these before and was challenged, well, that's not, but when he started looking at, bringing it all the way back to what's the demand. The demand starts when our eyes, male or female, start wandering where they should. She's somebody's daughter. And that, I want to put that in your mind. It's been in my mind and it's changed me. I hope it'll change you and make you different, better, and it'll help you be more of a mouthpiece to what you're after, Steve. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
You know, for those of us who follow this sort of thing, it's like, oh, I've heard it all. I've been to 4 or 5 different speeches and seminars. Well, I learned an awful lot today that I didn't know ahead of time, and a lot of thoughtful things that seem like common sense. But once you speak it, it's like, wow, I have opportunity to actually do something about this myself. And a lot of us don't think we do. Another case of being service above self. Let's help other people do that. So thank you again, Steve. It's fantastic. Really appreciate that. Larry, do we need to just cut the tables down today and that's it? Or chairs against the walls? Tables in the back room. We appreciate if you guys would do that. Next meeting, I won't be here and I won't be here the next meeting. I have my annual family trek over to North Carolina. But we want to tell Dave, we appreciate you being here today. Dave, it's good to have you back again. And Larry?
We had 47 people here today. I just counted. We had 39 people say they were coming. So some of you did not eat. And I apologize. I feel terrible. Starting next week, we're going to go for a buffet. I still think we still need to know how many people are coming until we reach that level that we had for so many years where we knew there'd be between 70 and 80 people there every week. No question. Right now, we don't have a clue. There may be 35 of you, today there's 47. So I hate it when I don't get to feed everybody. It's killing me. So please, if you're coming, you're still gonna have to.
I will.
We'll have to ask you to respond. We'll know how much to prepare starting next week with the buffet. Please, please, please respond to say you are coming. If you got a guest, be sure that got a guest.
Yep.
So we'll know. So we won't have to once the buffets get here. You know, we gotta have enough.
Now, right now, don't get. That's right. I was gonna say, don't get us wrong. We love the fact that we've got 47 people here today. I think that's fantastic. It's, you know, we're getting better and getting better, but do let us know if you're coming and we'll get a meal for you to eat. One more thing, the other change in the whatever you want to call it, the program, we're going to have the Rotary moment at the beginning, and we're going to have a quote at the end that will leave you thinking about things to do as a Rotarian, service above self. So today's quote is from Vince Lombardi, for all you sports fans, and that is, the measure of who we are is what we do with what we have. All right, so it really goes to speak to this meeting today. So thank you all. Is there any more anything else for the good of Rotary? If not, then we're adjourned and we'll see you next week.